Well, I think that's us live now.
Right, good evening. This is Spectrum Voices Conversation here every Sunday, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. UK time, and 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, United States, on Facebook Live and of course Podbean. And generally, what we do in our Sunday broadcast is we have a sort of kind of brief, well, not a brief, but we have a meeting talking about the kind of any developments and any discussions we want to in terms of the work that we do, and then we move on to the Facebook post sharing from the past week. Well, I say the past week, it's last couple of days, what time allows us. So, is there anything for the meeting to discuss?
Well, there's a bit of correspondence. Um, I heard from Heather, one of our recent interviews or conversations with lead officers, and Heather was somebody who said that they would be interested to come back and talk with us again. And I've got a very positive response from her. I sent out an email saying, let's do it again. What's happening? So I'll read that to you.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
So, hi Jules, so lovely to hear from you again. Thank you for this. Would love to come back to discuss the young people and also bring along my colleague, who's also called Heather.
That's helpful.
She, she's yeah, yeah, she's talking about yeah, exactly. She's talking about the bedroom boys concept, the young people that are staying at home, and
Yeah.
so much real need of support out there, especially in mental health for these young people, and time, real time needed to build trust and build shared lines of communication and understanding. And so she's saying that she would welcome the Spectrum Voices radio project's input and our experience as autistic people to help her or help them in in organising things for them. So I would say that's a very positive outcome there.
Yes, yes. I can certainly tell the first thing trust requires is certainty there'll be no compulsion. And I can refer to.
Yeah.
Oops. The echo started just then, so that confirms sound on Podbean. Yeah,
Yeah,
refresh
not sure that did actually. I think that was me trying to get it on Podbeam. For some reason, it's not working on Podbeam today, and I can't see a reason why.
Well, it worked for a moment then. Yeah.
Oh, did it come through on Podbeam?
It did, but it stopped again, so it was for a
Oh,
moment.
okay. I'll go back to that setting then. I didn't know if it was going to cause feedback.
Which is fair enough. That's one thing that we do not
Yes,
want.
yes.
Sensitivities and all
Yeah.
that.
Oh, it's working
It's
over on Podbeam now.
working now,
Okay.
yes.
Right, that's great. So sorry, just going back to what you were feeding, what you were feeding back, for what you
Yeah.
were updating on.
Yeah. I, I, I think you probably do have something to contribute to this, Morris. Um, I, I don't know. Hmm. What you just said is important there. It's that it's how can these people build trust with people, and do they deserve trust? Is the thing that's going through my head. Um, it feels to me as though we as elder people need to check out the intentions and and kind of almost protect the young people from these outside influences getting it wrong. Do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah, yeah, and so certainly not with these standard messages of always good to have your mental health checked out. Everyone seems to say no.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gone anywhere near a mental health practitioner or anything like that when I was, well, I still wouldn't. I wouldn't trust them. Um, but then maybe that's something we can get across.
Yeah, it's that fine line between dealing with the kind of the social aspect and the mental health aspect, because sometimes, certainly in the past, it's been all rolled into one, and it's caused many people, um, many autistic people, a lot of bad experiences because it's all kind of rolled in together. So it's just something we need to keep an eye on. But this sounds very
Yeah,
positive.
you're right. It is positive, but I don't want to have cold feet on it. I'm just kind of, when we are actually being given the opportunity, I've suddenly become a little bit cautious. Um, in that we we're going to have to do something right, aren't we? You know.
Well, are we just answering questions?
Well, we don't know what it's going to be. I mean, at the
No.
moment, we're just going to have a discussion and conversation with
Yeah,
them, with the two people, and make a podcast out of
yeah,
it.
that's fine. Yeah,
Um,
we
that's
certainly
fine, isn't it?
yeah, we
Give
certainly
them some
don't have
ideas.
to take on any kind of ambassador role. That's not. If we were offered that, it was um,
I think we already
what's the
are if we're
objection?
doing that, though, aren't we?
No, 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 no,
I mean,
no. I mean, that's a propaganda ambassador role as opposed to a critic.
oh, I see. Yeah, yeah, I get what you're saying there. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think we should run before we can walk, so to speak. It's an
yeah.
opportunity, and I don't think we should worry too much. We just see how it goes. I mean, I wouldn't worry about the cold feet thing. I think we can just go for it. It seems okay so far, and if we're not happy, we're not happy. I mean, that can be understood.
Okay.
But we approach it
Um,
the right way. That's the main thing.
okay. So I did tell her that I'm away and it's difficult for the timing. I offered her the Tuesday 10 o'clock appointment where we normally have our meeting, because I thought you guys would be there. So it's more voices for them. So there is a possibility they'll do that on Tuesday with us.
But this coming Tuesday, or on a
Yeah,
Tuesday.
both of
Okay.
those.
All right.
Yeah.
How is the 10 o'clock for you? Just I mean, what's the time? See, what's
10,
$10
o'clock is great
UK?
for me.
Right,
It's 10 o'clock for me is 5 p.m.
right. Okay.
There's another thing that's come up, and that's that we're now streaming to Podbean, but we're also streaming to Facebook, which you already know. I've also set it up so we're streaming now to Instagram and somewhere else that I can't remember the name of. So we're experimenting with getting a little bit more coverage. So that's a little bit forward. Also, I've had some time to look at our website, and I've tidied it up a bit, removed some of the things that might have looked a bit confusing, and I've got it now so that the all of the podcasts come up as a page on our own website now, where people can play the podcast from our website and look at the information, and all of the links that you put on the Facebook posts when you update the people we talk about, that will also be on the each of the podcast pages. So every time we do a podcast now, it creates a page on our website.
That's great work. Have a look at that.
it's something I've wanted to do for a long time, but I haven't got my head around it. But today somehow I managed to do it.
So you did it all in one day?
Yes, yeah. I did it, updated it, set the feed up, and yeah.
That's good.
Any other business?
Just on the podcasts that have just been posted on the Facebook.
Yep.
And I've already said to you about the 20 minutes kind of gap at the beginning of the podcast. Of
20
the
seconds.
what did I say? 20 minutes? Right, 20 seconds, okay. I can't believe I said that. 20 seconds gap. And you're aware of it. But I've put a comment on it so that people are aware of it and they don't think
I
it's
fixed
broken
it.
or anything. Did you actually
I
fix
fixed
it?
it. I
So,
fixed it as soon as I got that email. It was fixed within the hour.
right, so you didn't have to repost.
No, what I did was I I had there's several processes when I put the podcast up, um, and it was a matter of just changing the actual file. I'd sent an early version of it that hadn't got, as you said, the introduction bit. So I just added that to it and swapped the files over. So
So
yeah,
it's
it's all
just
sorted.
so it's like the introduction's just been added to it.
Yeah. Can you
Right,
change
that's
the post? Can you edit the post so it's no longer like that?
fine. I'm unsure, but I'll have a look.
Okay. Well, it doesn't matter. Mistakes are mistakes, aren't they?
Yeah, it'll get resolved. I mean, we were talking about it and I knew that we would, and that's fine. I mean, it's not like it wasn't working, it's just like there was just a gap there. And it was just the reason I want to follow on to something else. The reason that I kind of noticed that is because I was intending to share that one to the local notice board that I'm administrator for.
Yep.
As the most recent, this is the Facebook stuff we do. This is what we do. It's just as a demonstration, because all you need to do is share it, and they can just click on the picture and it plays. So
Yep.
that's where I recognised it. So what I did instead is I just did the one for the 7th of January, which is
Oh,
getting
okay.
some attention. Because it's still quite recent, and there's a few people that have seen it, so it may bring more attention to the website and the Facebook.
Yeah.
Probably more to the Facebook.
Good.
Sorry, Morris, you something?
Yeah. Um, been in touch during the week with autistic knowledge development. They're kind of to voluntary on their own steam, trying to replace the scene networking role that Ant's never quite got up and running doing, but I think had been ideally supposed to. So I did that for ELAS, but there's obviously that I'd like to know the whole scene that's out there, so that groups and projects not in certain person's favour can be networks and know each other out there. So that can cover the radio project too. So if they're already on your radar to have contacts with, I think we've talked about them on the Facebook at one point. But they produced a so that's personally exploring supports process they made videos about it to judge on their merits, trying to help folks with difficult life decisions, particularly in the sort of newly post-diagnosis period, and to be a post-diagnosis course, that's probably what the videos are. They set up working with the NAS as a help to platform, basically. So the video, yeah, it's called Embrace Autism. I've got to get my head clear what that I said. Say that the name of this thing is Embrace Autism. I'll post to search it on.
So we should get that posted up on the Facebook and get involved in them and have a look at them, yeah?
Yeah, get get in touch to make known exist, yes.
That sounds like a very good contact, Morris.
Yeah, well, I've just kind of looked to see if we're already following them, and we are. I think you have mentioned it before.
Yeah,
Morris.
so we're following them, but the autistic knowledge development, but then there's also this Embrace Autism, this program thing, which has just appeared this week. So that's sharing of that names.
All right, I'll look right now. Is that a video?
There's a series of videos. There's a page. It's actually supposed to be part of the NAS site, which has got an introductory video on it. Yeah.
What do you think of what you've seen so far? Have you managed to look at them all?
Not all. Enough. Their range of things they're concerned about is good. The nature of the helping people with decisions process, some of it sounds a bit pragmatic, but just hope that that's adjustable to fit the person they're working with, and so it just says that what would be his level of pragmatism was someone else's is more with sticking points than that would fit with the issues in the other videos of the series to be okay with that. So that's an experience to be, that's to be seen in experience, I suppose. It's quite idealistic. I suppose I wonder if he's offering this thing, and there's one national project. Is it could you get too many folks wanting it, and how will manage the numbers, grow it? But of course, there's anyone to grow it to. Maybe there is.
Okay, so we're going to keep an eye on that. I have to say that Justin's arrived over and he's texting on Podbeam at the moment. He says he's late because he's been doing some shopping and such like. But as usual, I have to remind you, Justin, we don't mind. There's nobody's under any pressure to do anything with Autistic Radio. We turn up when we want, and nobody feels let down. But it is nice you're there. That's cool.
Yeah, but it is, and yeah, you don't need to feel under pressure of. But it's good that you're saying, "Oh, I've been shopping," and you've got a life, Justin. I mean, how incredible is that? I mean, don't feel under pressure at all. But it's good evening. It's good to have you. Is there anything else before we move on to the Facebook?
No, that's right.
Not from my point of view.
Okay. All right, we'll just move on to the Facebook posts. The first one, just from an hour ago, I'll just introduce this. This is Spectrum Voices Conversation. This is the Facebook part from the 28th of January 2024. We're discussing the Facebook posts from the last couple of days, going into the week, depending how far we go down into them. So, the first post is from Sunshine Support, who described as a disability service and an award-winning special educational needs and disabilities consultancy. And what they've shared a picture, well, a kind of diagram sort of thing. And what they're saying is, all too often we focus on the negatives of being autistic. This is mainly because we need to focus on the negatives to get help and support, but there are so many positives we need to focus on too. This is not invalidating anyone's struggle, merely highlighting that there's a lot to celebrate too, creating a little balance in our often negative world. And
Absolutely, amen to that.
yep, and just to go through, I mean, it's not too long. So the picture itself, so it's a picture of someone, rainbow head, making it kind of positive. I imagine that's what that's for. And it's the positives of being autistic. Attention to detail, always on time, ability to hyper focus, dedication to special interests, humorous, amazingly unique ways of looking at the world, direct and honest and straightforward, strong moral compass, committed, accepting of others' neurodivergence, thrive on structure, reliable, sensitive to others' feelings, and ethical and honest. I don't think that that's completely accurate as such, but I get the gist of what this post is about. What's other thoughts?
I like anything that's written that's positive. And I also like that they're turning some of the things that people see as a negative on its head. So they say ability to hyper focus instead of fixed in hyper focus with no way of being able to be diverted from a task. You know, it is a positive thing in the right context. We're actually often described as without humor, but many of the comedians that I follow and I know, in fact, Joe Wells is performing right now at the moment on a website that I subscribe to called Next Up. They are, because of the quirky way our brains work, we find the humor in life, and we are humorous, but we are often seen as people who don't get the joke. But then we probably don't get the jokes that we don't like, which are often cruelty jokes. And it says reliable, and often reliable is called a negative because it says that people won't change. You know, they reliable and thriving on structure are positives. Yes, they are. Whereas they're often described as fixed and being unable to deal with change. So they've taken all the different traits that people use as negatives against us and turned them around, and I like that.
Yeah, quite like that as well. There's an addition to this on the text. It's kind of promoting an event on Eventbrite. Uh, just kind of adding to what it's described, saying we'll be learning more about autism in women and girls with Rachel Tensionis and Libby Hill on the 8th of February. You're welcome to join us for an evening of learning. And it's called Understanding and Supporting Autistic Women and Girls, 8th of February 2024. 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. I'm unsure of the time zone. I'm unsure what it is. And online via Zoom. I just thought I'd add that. I didn't want to miss that out. But getting back to the topic itself, I do like things that are put any negative to a degree, especially if it's labelled at people. Uh, it's put on its head and made into a positive is always a great thing to share and to sometimes remind yourself as well. Because I do remember I used to feel that I was inflexible, you know, and I couldn't change from routine, and if something was slightly changed, it was very difficult, and it still remains very difficult to adjust from. But there is adjustment there if it's reasonable. I like the thing it says amazingly unique ways of looking at the world. I would like to think everyone's unique, but it's like every autistic person that I've met is incredibly unique, and that's why it kind of makes the stereotype so ridiculous. And the way they look at the world, the way they behave, the way they are, their being. So I love stuff like this, and it's great to share.
I think the uniqueness also, a lot of the uniqueness is because we're forced into it. You know, we we're unique not just because our brains are produced different in the first place, but that we often don't fit in general society for large periods of our time as we're growing up and in adolescence. And to survive that, we have to embrace our oddness or our quirkiness and make that a virtue in our lives. And also when we're young, we tend to be people who are unwilling to just go along with peer pressure. I know that I know there can be an aspect of trying to mask and fit in and people please, but many of us are the people who just say no to some of the bad things that happen and whistleblow. And so, yeah, I think it's a good thing. As far as the time zone goes, it's Eventbrite UK, so it's UK time.
Alright, that's great. I mean, I should look more into it. It's because I only shared it about an hour ago. I thought that's interesting. I'll put that on. That'll be something to discuss, and obviously people can read it.
This particularly,
It's the 8th of February, so if we get this
yeah,
podcast out quick enough, people will find out about it.
women. I was funny because there's a guy in the picture, so the picture applies to everyone, but okay. There's the work that's needed doing is what they're doing, yeah. Okay. If we're
I
between
may,
nice.
yeah, it's my fault. I kind of made out that it was the two of them are linked or not. It's just a lot of information about an event that's coming up, rather than actually being linked to the actual diagram picture that's been shown. It's just like they're just promoting a different event for women and girls.
If we're between
Autistic.
items, Harry, can you see that we may not be looking at Podbean just in that can do that time tomorrow morning?
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
So that would be Inspection Voices Skype then. Guess.
Yeah, I'm happy with Skype. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
I've just asked if he's checked my maths yet because I haven't double checked the maths on the accounts.
Well, I have, yeah.
I have as well. I find them acceptable. I don't mean to sound like that. I mean that they're fine. So, moving on then. The next post is from Autism Eye magazine. And the magazine, Autism Eye, is a quarterly publication by award winning journalists who are also autism parents. and they've got a website, autismi.com. And what they're sharing is a evening online autism wellbeing group, 18 plus. And it's asking, are you autistic and over 18? You could join an informal free online wellbeing meeting led by Paul Isaacs. And it's on the 5th of February at 7:30 p.m. Unsure where that is. The most important thing I would like to say, it says sessions will not be recorded, so that may kind of take pressure off people. But I just thought it was something worth sharing. And what I've also done is I've also went to Paul Isaac's link, and I've now following Paul Isaacs for any updates as well to help add to the page.
Okay, if you follow the link that you've put on our Facebook page, it's in quite small writing, but there is a booking link for Zoom, so you can register for this directly from the post. You go to an Autism Eye event, evening autism wellbeing group, and then in small writing at the bottom, both the website link and the booking link is the same link that will take you to the right place. And it's free, 7:30 to 9 p.m. I think that, if anybody's around, I think that's a great thing to do.
And it's
It
in the
might be the
United
first
Kingdom.
time. Yeah.
It's in the United Kingdom according to this page, which makes it easier for people in the UK to follow. I'm being a bit selfish there. Apologies. Just try to keep it accurate for everyone because we're global.
I haven't looked through the little website they've got there, but it looks nice, simple, easy to navigate, easy on the eye, no flashy stuff. There's a directory down there with a few things in as well. Yeah, well, more power to the elbow. Anybody who's out there reaching out to other autistic people and parents and professionals, jolly good. Nice find.
The next one is something that we've talked about before and we'll talk about over and over actually. It's been shared by Spectrum Sloth, personal blog. Late diagnosed autistic, mama bear, ace, cats, languages, sparkly things, trains, memes, she, stroke her. And they're from Northallerton, United Kingdom. And what they've shared is this can cause great debate, great divide, and great hurt for a lot of people, as we've kind of experienced ourselves, that this is a gentle reminder that the puzzle piece can be very triggering to people in the autistic community. Of course, if you choose to use it, then it's up to you. You just need to be aware that you'll actively alienate many of the people you're trying to advocate for.
They've phrased that nicely, haven't they?
As nicely as they can, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so often when you see people who are advocating for us, autistic people, and people who've been in the scene a long time, there's a rather dogmatic angriness to them. You should never do this, and I joined a forum the other day just to have a little look around, and I put a couple of questions up there, and I got some really useful stuff back. But I also got some people who went completely off the subject and made some very strong statements, and it just made me feel really uncomfortable, as though the whole world has to be like Twitter, and it doesn't. And what Spectrum Sloth does is they think about how people might feel when they're being given advice, and they say if you choose it, then it's up to you, but you do need to be aware that you will actively alienate many of the people you're trying to advocate for. They don't say you're enabling the abusers if you align yourself with the puzzle piece. I hate Spectrum, I hate Autism Speaks. And the second way of putting it is the bit that I see far too often around autism. I know those voices are just the loudest, and the real group of autistic people aren't like that. But it's so unnecessary, and Spectrum Sloth seems to get it right to me.
Yeah, she actually empathise with the newcomer. Not just a drummed in, but I almost already know. Even the personal bit, I was actually quite disappointed when I found out the puzzle piece equals bad, because autism itself was a missing piece of a puzzle about you, rather than seeing it as something wrong with you completing things. There's something missing in your self-picture. It's just, yeah. The puzzle piece could have been good, but by historical chance it went down having the association it got. Kind and useful discussions only. And yes. I mean, if you already know about the connotations, and I can tell you what this, yeah, but I mean that empathy level is impressive. And any example of us having empathy too, insight into the other person's perspective, situation.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. It points out that it puts a lie to the autistic people do not have empathy, and the double empathy. Liz, they had something on LinkedIn that they were commenting on, reacting to. I must try and ask them to bring it across so that we put it on Facebook. It was a very nice little piece about empathy and the double empathy problem.
The next one that's been covered quite a few times, it always generates good discussion, is from That Spicy Autistic Femme, a personal blog. Diagnosed autistic female sharing things I relate to and or agree with. And it's about why self-diagnosed autistics are valid. And I'll just go through the kind of picture because it's not too long. They say that medical diagnosis can be expensive. Human are the experts in their own minds. Family may prevent assessment. Diagnosis criteria is a poor checklist of stereotypes. Diagnosis criteria ignores gender, race, sexuality, culture, and more. Medical diagnosis confirms autism, but it doesn't create it. Discrimination within the medical profession may prevent diagnosis. Assessment waiting lists, often long. And the last one, medical trauma may make assessment unfeasible.
I feel really uplifted reading that, because there's still this tiny minority out there in autism land that feel that if you don't have a diagnosis, that there is some kind of hierarchy amongst them. And all of those reasons are very important reasons why we should, as a group, accept and understand and empathize. There's that word again, empathize with people who are so similar to us and who might not get that little bit of paper, that expensive bit of paper in some cultures. I can add other things to it. You might make it an absolute positive choice not to get diagnosed, even though you know that you're autistic and you find yourself aligning yourself with your neuro tribe. Um, there are prejudices built into society when you have that diagnosis. There are certain countries that won't allow you to move yourself or your autistic child to them. There are jobs that employers will not look at you if you declare that you're autistic. And if you're in senior positions in some jobs, like teaching or the medical profession, it can be very touch and go as to whether having that piece of information out there is good for you or not. And sometimes getting a diagnosis is something that means that it does become public, or people feel as though they can be enabled to be more public about their diagnosis, and it does them a disservice. So I don't know, maybe I'm going to copy this and paste it and put it on our website. What do you think?
Yes, I mean, that's a statement of inclusion and reminding folks of all the world imperfections around the distribution of diagnosis. So many of those points about how it's not fair that can happen to people. And the medical trauma one, it can be fear of previous mental health involvements. Coping issues.
Yeah, people might just want to keep the fuck away from medics.
Well, it certainly would help a lot of people. The inclusiveness of the message of the basic facts, uh, which is laid out, would certainly help a lot of people, because I am aware of many in the community that are not diagnosed, but they have a feeling that they may be autistic, and they have this feeling that they have to be diagnosed to be part of the, for want of a better word, club. Not for any medical reason as such. It's more like it's an answer to why they are who they are, and it does seem unfair that there's an element out there that wants to prevent that. It's like, no, this is our club. You're not getting in the door, which I think is a little bit childish, because it's not an ownership thing. It's just people. It's just people want answers about their being, and because autism, as we're trying to, or not trying to, what we are promoting is, it's not a disease. It's not a disorder. It's a way of being. I know people. We do respect that people within themselves individually will have different kind of journeys and different kind of representations of who they feel themselves are. But we try to be as positive as possible in our minds about it. So I'm all for that being shared on the website.
Back over on Podbeam, Justin has has reminded me that not everybody's aware of the double empathy concept. Um, I'm trying to think. Uh, there's a there's a way of thinking that people who are not autistic and people who are autistic, the people who are not autistic can look at us and think that we don't empathize with them because we don't behave exactly like them. We don't see things in the same way. And so they have told us for many years that we lack empathy because we don't see things in the same way that they do. But it's been pointed out that the other way around, they don't empathize with us. They fail to empathize with us because we're so different from them. And a lot of people would put forward the proposition that actually the autistic people are doing more of the empathizing because they can intellectually see how somebody else is feeling, and they're more likely to be open to difference, and they're more likely to be able to walk in somebody else's shoes because they come from a minority and they're practiced at it and it's more natural to them. And that the general society, because they're in the majority, everybody fits and works the same way, and they kind of enforce a way of being on each other. And that belonging to the same kind of way of being isn't really empathy. So, does that explain it roughly?
If you be like them, they think you must think like them, and then they've made you have empathy. But of course, you're actually still thinking your way, and they've just put a surface on you which isn't empathy.
For years, I used to be really down on myself because I was different, and I felt that even before diagnosis and all that was into play, I always felt different. I always felt I'd done things, I was kind of a sore thumb starting out, and I hated that because I wanted to blend in with everybody else. But as I got older, I began to enjoy this uniqueness about myself. Obviously, I got diagnosed with autism. I mean, I was diagnosed, and it's just like having that uniqueness, that sort of being different. You're not even the same as someone else who is autistic, and I like that, I embrace that. But there's just times where, well, there's many times. It's kind of quite the norm, I suppose, where if someone is unique and they act a bit differently, it's just the way society sort of crushes you down. And sometimes you get people that are autistic are saying, "Well, you're not like me, or you don't have anything that's similar to me, so you can't be autistic. So you're not part of this club," and it becomes this sort of kind of cliquey thing, which I think is totally unacceptable to do to anyone. But it does exist.
There's something else that's happened in the chat, and I think it's because we're now available on more streams that people can actually access and send us messages direct now. Somebody's trying to sell us a way of promoting our channel, getting extra viewers and followers and views and chatbots, etc., at a price. And no, no, thank you. I would prefer to just have our own little place, and if people find us, they will find us, and we'll grow naturally and very slowly. Thank you. We don't have to be viral. We don't have to be busy. We can just be ourselves. So thank you for the offer, but no, we're not open to buying your services.
The next post is this is the first of three. We've had a really good week with new podcasts. This is the first of three of the new podcasts. And this one is about the conversation that we had. It's part of our equity and communication series that we're doing with professionals. And it's Heather, Autistic Lead Officer from Inverclyde in Scotland. It was done last November. And basically, we're what the description is we're reaching out to autism professionals to create equity and communication. The lead officer is one role that we as a group may not know much about. In this conversation, Heather, the autistic lead officer for Inverclyde, shows some of her concerns to us as a community.
I think she did as well. I think she came across as a very genuine, caring person who was worried about a certain group of people, and that was young people who were staying away from school, getting themselves involved in only online communities, some of which can be harmful and detrimental. We know that these young people are vulnerable to everything from suicide cults to incel organizations and radicalization of all kinds of types of things. I think autistic people are very vulnerable to that when they don't have a balancing community outside themselves. And school is often a horrible place, but sometimes it does take people away from ending up in a false reality. It's a very imperfect environment for young people who are autistic or who are neurodivergent. I fully agree with that and fully accept it. But there is also the problem when people are effectively dropping out from society, ending up smoking more weed than is good for them, and finding themselves developing difficulties with leaving the building. So I think we're going to work with Heather. We're going to talk with her again as soon as possible and see whether we can be helpful as elders in the community to perhaps help her reach out to these people if we can find a way that's good and ethical.
Absolutely agree with that. Just to give experience or just to give a view is more enough to feel that you're helping out. Because as we've said in the last one or two kind of posts, is like we're all individuals. We're certainly at an age that we've lived life a bit, and to give the experience of that life as a sort of example, positive example, uh, if we want to something to discuss and touch on that may help discussion and hopefully help other people, especially younger people, as we were talking about.
It can be a very lonely and isolating youth if you're not careful when you're autistic.
Yes, it can. It can. Um, I've had kind of moments of that myself. Uh, Maybe just before I was diagnosed, I suppose, because there were so many questions. Because I wasn't sure what was going on, and I'm unsure. I could have been easily led. I mean, there's always that time, especially if you're vulnerable, and it can happen to anyone, no matter how headstrong or proud you are. It can happen to you if someone who's more headstrong and more confident and seems to have all the answers, can come along. It didn't happen, but it could have done, and it has happened to a lot of people out there. The next podcast I'm sharing, this will probably be deleted and reposted again because there's a kind of little mistake. Not I don't want to say mistake. There was like 20 seconds of silence, which I put on the. But it's been fixed, and I'll repost it later today or tomorrow. But to share it now because it's on the page now. It's the podcast that we done the live unmask from last week, the 21st of January 2024. The Facebook post sharing and discussion from that previous week. And it was a good one. There was some new ones and some familiar ones. Contributions were from the autistic teacher, the autistic author Torrin Cairns, Life on Autistic Mum, Neuro Wild, Autistic Revolution, I can't even say it. Can you say it, Julian? Autobiographical comics. I can say it. And autistic surplus. I actually managed to say it before you had a chance to speak. But there you go. See, we're authentic. This isn't polished.
I couldn't get my mic off quick enough.
All right, you say it then, so you haven't wasted your time.
So I couldn't because I was coughing.
All right.
What is it? Autobiographical.
Yeah, I just couldn't actually say that. I don't know why. Autobiographical comics, yeah, which was a good one.
Do you know how I do this sometimes? When I can't say a word,
Yep.
I put a gap somewhere in it. When I stutter sometimes and I can't get the word out, I would go autobiographical, and it sounds slightly different, but it gets the word out.
Fair enough. I was trying another trick just to put humour on it, but yeah, that's a good way of thinking. That's a good way of doing it in the future, so it can be, because obviously when the edit comes, it makes it easier to just kind of piece it together. Yep. Thank you for that. The next one, the last of the three podcasts, it's been great this week, is the Equity and Communication series with Ramon, the autistic lead officer from South Lanarkshire, Scotland. And as it says in the one with Heather, we're reaching out to autistic professionals to create equity and communication. The lead officer role is one, as a group, we don't know much about. And in this conversation, Ramon shows us some of his concern for us as a community. So it was Ramon's experience and conversation, and this was done in December. So we've got two, which is good.
It's interesting because they're both in different areas, and they both spoke about slightly different things, but they both came across really well. Ramon was talking about this concept of Ubuntu, which I think he wants to go into a little bit more, sort of Nelson Mandela idea, and about valuing things that are real and important to the human being, a little bit anti-capitalist almost. So I've contacted Ramon, and I'm hoping that he's going to come back and talk with us again.
Yeah, I look forward to that. The next one is from Amazingly Autistic, and it's a personal blog, and it says this group is all about sharing our autism journey. And it's showing a picture of a horse, a girl with a picture of a horse, but the post says this post has nothing to do with horses. It's not too lengthy, so I'll read through it if it's okay, because I think it's actually quite important. It might be a good discussion piece for us. They say, I just used this photo. Well, it's amazing, just like the horse and the cute princess feeding him. It's my girl being gentle, which is this post is about, if you care to read all the way through. Tonight, Elise and I were laying in her room, talking per usual. except I used to be always the one talking, and luckily we share now. Something I always hoped would happen, and what I hope continues to happen, both of us talking. She said to me, no school tomorrow, okay? And I said, yes, school. She said, no, hit boy's name, which I won't make it clear because I just slid one hand down her arm softly. I heard the gentle, but didn't understand all the way until she said it again. We always tell her no hit if she hits herself or Troy. Then we say be nice and we slide her hand down her arm. But tonight she said gentle. We usually say the word GG, it's Turkish for gentle. Spelled completely different, but if you see how the word sounds, it sounds weird actually reading that out because obviously it's doing it by audio. But she said gentle. Today I know she had an incident with another kid and there was a slight hit. So clearly it was we talked about it and showed the right way to be and everyone is fine. But the best part, she told me about her day and I didn't bring it up. This is huge. When we talked about the incident, she said, be a good girl. Almost in question, I said, yes, be a good girl. School tomorrow. It said, tomorrow last day, and we proceeded to count the days until Friday. I am so proud of her. Today we had a back and forth conversation for about 3 minutes. It was amazing. It truly was I had hoped for years. It wasn't perfect, but it was a conversation and I'll take it. It just shows conversation can be important no matter how little or how long the connection can be. You can relate to it in a way.
Showcase how to do it. Yeah. Some more patience to have and
A quick thank you to Heinrich. He's pointed out that it's called Ubuntu, and it comes from South Africa. And Heinrich is from South Africa, so they know about it. So thank you for Heinrich.
Yes, thank you. The next one is from Swan Autism Scotland, and just get the description. Swan Autism Scotland community. Swan is an autistic-led charity run and built for, run by, right. Swan Scotland is an autistic-led charity run by and for autistic women and non-binary people since 2012. Their website is swanscotland.com. And what the post's about is, want to know what's coming up on Swan? Our newsletter is now going out each month to let you know about all our upcoming in-person and online events. The next one goes out next week with all our February and March news, so don't miss out. So it's a link to their newsletter for any information if anyone's interested in their events, which are quite good events and good. There's a lot of stuff to share. Very informative, very in depth, and I recommend it.
I need to tell Heinrich Krosny that we only have it one way going out to Podbean. We don't have it so that we can hear the audio from the Podbean map through to where we're to the studio at the moment. But if you want to email us news@autisticradio.com, you would be absolutely welcome to join us next week in our conversations and put your word to it. So if you contact us, news@autisticradio.com, we'll organise so that you can call in advance, or record with us, or speak to us online live next Sunday at the same time. We're here every 6 p.m. UK time. I think that's a very similar time in South Africa because you're on the same longitude, aren't you?
The next post is from Laura Helfeld, Neurodivergent Nurse Consulting. Health and Wellness website, Disability Service, Medical and Health. Description: Hiya, I'm Laura, Autistic, PDA and ADHD nurse and sleep consultant. Let's talk mental health and self-care. And what this post is about, it's got a picture, but it's also got some information below, so I'll just touch on that. PDA stands for pathological demand avoidance or persistent drive for autonomy. Fantasy and make-believe. PDAers have incredibly expansive and detail-orientated imaginations. They can love pretending to exist in a parallel life or take on being made up or known character or even animals. In particular, cat culture is very popular and is where PDAers take on acting like a cat and like everyone to treat them as such. PDAers may also run ongoing narratives for pretend storylines and of course enjoy being part of fandoms of sci-fi and fantasy-based books, movies and games. PDAers are known to have imaginary friends as well. I'll just kind of stop that bit there. It's quite lengthy, but what do you think about that one?
I think it's interesting because sometimes people are given a PDA diagnosis by inexperienced psychiatrists on the when they're actually autistic, because they concentrate on the need for us to be independent, independent in thought, independent in control, and to not allow other people to control us. And sometimes it's just the diagnosis that's thrown at people. And I think I've said in the past, I think sometimes it's a diagnosis that's just made up by the psychiatrist. But Laura's here is pointing out that there's a real diagnosis. There's a real group of people who are happy to use that as their descriptor, and it fits with stuff. So I think that's interesting to hear.
I can sort of relate to some of that in a way. Being in school, being picked on, and you know, you kind of watch television programs about people that can handle themselves and superheroes, and sometimes you watch things about these imaginary worlds, particularly cartoons, that there's none of this sort of thing that you think happens. And I can, if I'd imagine, used to write imaginary stories, I used to get into daydreams and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know if that's relevant to actually this, but that's what that reminds me of. And sometimes my sister and I've talked about things I used to make up like years ago at Christmas when she was a little younger. The kind of make believe stuff that we used to go and visit Santa Claus in the North Pole and things like that. And it was like, it was, it's just like, it's something you kind of reminisce about. It's something you make up, and you sort of kind of believe that actually happened in a way. Not too much, but it's believable enough that you experience it, and it makes you feel a bit better because reality isn't as nice as you would like it to be. I don't know if that's related to that at all, but it sounds very similar.
I think you're right. I think those kind of activities are very much part of autism, but they might be part of this PDA as well. It's all this Venn diagram stuff again, isn't it? How many labels do we need? Some people say, well, we need a lot more labels so that we can get closer to people's actual experience of being human. And some other people say, oh, well, there's such a crossover between all these things that the labels are irrelevant. It really is down to the individual as to what they're comfortable with. I'm just not comfortable with sometimes the inexperienced in the medical profession ascribing things to people, because I think that damages people.
The next one is from Neurodivergent Lou, blogger, finding a place in a neurotypical world. Neurodivergent Lou at yahoo.co.uk. It's on the Facebook. I didn't say it properly, but it's on the page. That's the email address. And this is sort of slideshow, and I won't go through all the details, but I'll just go through the sort of kind of the headings. It's called Why Might Autistic People Ask the Same Thing Over and Over? Number one, as a way to reassure ourselves. Number two, it feels regulating. Number three, as a way to process information. Number four, connection seeking. Number five, to keep ourselves on task. Number six, to clarify information. Number seven, to seek more information. And that's the 7 of why autistic people might ask the same thing over and over. I can certainly relate to that in a way.
Yeah, I think particularly when I was younger, um, you know, maybe I do all these things now, but not out loud.
I think I do it myself.
Must admit, I've always had a problem with getting a question repeated to me if I've already answered it, because I'm going to say neurotypically, but not always. I mean, which is, as part of society, I think by all populations, it can be a way of trying to weigh you down to give the answer they want instead of the actual answer. So there's that side to empathise with, and there is, I suppose, an empathy fail in what it describes in repeating a question, because you like the experience of getting the answer, because someone's got to give the answer, and it doesn't feel the same as getting it the first time, so keep on giving it.
I tend to associate it with children as they grow up. I think neurotypical children do all of these things as well. Um, but I think for autistic kids, they often need a bit more reassurance. They need a little bit more routine. They need to think about things a bit more. But there's also a pleasure in getting the same answer back. You know, that feeling of, it's almost like people get stuck on pinball machines because you get a reward when it does the same thing again. You know what's going to happen. You know what mummy's going to say. Mummy's going to say this. So you
But,
answer the question again, you know?
but does Mummy never say that she's already told you this and that she's got to do other things?
She does, and sometimes she snaps, and sometimes she says, "Oh, well, I've told you 100 times." But it is also part of being a parent to empathize and tolerate and put yourself aside. And it's actually one of the nice parts of being a parent. It's realizing that somebody is that vulnerable and they need that, even if it is, you know, the kid isn't grown, the kid is a kid. And pushing grown-up things on kids too early is a negative for me. Negative. Allow people to develop and be safe in their own world.
That's all you can really ask for. That's all you do really ask for. It's just the pressures and all that of growing up or making you grow up, because the world is always in such a hurry to make you into an adult.
I can't help being incredibly curious about Heinrich's profile picture there, because there's words on it, but my eyes are not good enough to be able to read the words. It. Oh, hang on. No, I managed to make it big. It's a great picture. I don't know. Is that a famous leader? It says, before you argue with someone, ask yourself, is this person mentally mature enough to grasp the concept of a different perspective? If not, then there's no point to argue. There's a bit of wisdom there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something you do. That's a very good point. Um, the next post is from Autism on the Water. I think it's the first time I've shared something from them for a while. A charity organisation based in Scotland. Welcome to Autism on the Water, a charity organisation to raise awareness and assist autistic people to access sailing and boating in the UK. And the post is about sending the very best of luck to our founder, Murray, who just a couple of days ago sets off to Sydney in Australia to volunteer for the iconic Making Waves Foundation, as well as bring back new ideas and skills to further develop autism in the water. We would like to thank everyone who has helped make this opportunity happen for Murray and for Autism on the Water. And it's just saying, whilst Murray is away, emails will be monitored, but all inquiries are asked to be directed to Kirsty Pierce at the relevant email address, and who will respond on Murray's behalf while they're away. So good luck from us, from Murray, and be safe. Making Waves Foundation, I looked into them, and Making Waves Foundation inspires optimism and resilience for people living with disability and disadvantage via sailing programs. These programs help break down discrimination and redefine what's possible, and are based in New South Wales in Australia. The next one is a podcast revisit, and it's gone back to a Facebook sharing podcast that we did back in the 8th of October. And the contributions from then was from ICANN Network Limited, Life of an Autistic Mum, The Chronic Couple, Autistic Not Weird, and Reframing Autism. So we've done quite a few of these now, and this is up to October. We're doing the revisits. The next one is quite interesting. It's from Autistic Qualia, digital creator, autistic and ADHD self-advocate, digital content creator and writer. And what they've shared is about, it's a quote from Ellen Park reconsidering self-employment. And the quote says, and I can familiarise with this, I also find interviews to be very stressful and awkward. Even if I had the right skills for the job, my lack of ability to articulate myself when put on the spot has led to rejections.
Have they ever thought that everyone can do that?
Sorry, Morris, I was speaking when you spoke. What did you say?
Well, I only heard an echoey sound. Ah, bum 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 bum. So that's why I kept speaking.
You were.
That yeah, what was it? I was saying that. Look at the thing again.
Sorry, you're right
That
to
they
do
can't
so. I
expect.
couldn't get my words out anyway.
They can't expect everyone that they. How long they've been expecting everyone to have a particular talking ability and only be right for every job if you've got a particular ability to respond to a particular type of question.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like you might never use the skills that they ask you for in an interview. You know, interview is like improv, and we're not improv comedians and performers. We might be stacking shelves or dealing with data or coding or something. But the interview process expects you to be some kind of entertaining clown. And I'm generally very articulate and good with my words, but when people try and put me on the spot with these stupid questions like, if you were a household appliance, what kind of household appliance would you be? Because they think that'll teach them something about you and your ability to do a job. I resent it so much that I come across as aggressive. You know, they ask us stupid things. They put people on the spot when the job has nothing to do with being put on the spot. I think interviews are a very poor way of choosing people.
And they just keep doing a thing because it's done instead of rethinking whether it ever served the purpose it was started for.
It seems as long as they recruit, they think they've done a good job. I mean, I've kind of heard about experiences of people, you know, applying for jobs at supermarkets or large companies, you know, usually shops, usually factories, and it's because it's like they do this certain way, and they want you to do certain things that have nothing to do with the job in hand. It's just more like you have to prove yourself that you're good enough to be working for them in the first place. It might be nothing to do with the job at all, but it's like proving yourself, and apparently that's meant to actually improve who you are and give you good experience, even if you don't get the job. But it's a strange thing that I certainly wouldn't want to ever be involved in. Kind of group sessions and things like that as well.
It seems to me that interviews a lot of the time are about weeding out people according to their own prejudices. And those prejudices could be about race, they could be about sexuality, they could be about class, they could be about disability. The point of an interview is often to discriminate unfairly.
Well, that's well, a really good conversation tonight. We're just about out of time. We've shared quite a lot of posts, a lot of topics, positive, negative, and in between. So thanks everybody for listening tonight and everyone who's taken part. I've really enjoyed it, and I look forward to next week. So this is Spectrum Voices Conversation here between 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. UK time, and 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the United States. So thanks again everyone for taking part and being involved, and please keep sharing or keep posting your Facebook posts out there, and I'll certainly share as many as I can to be discussed on here. So with repeating myself, thank you again, and good night to everyone. Good night.
And now we've finished, a reminder to anybody out there in the different places that we're streaming to that if you want to join in the program, come and put your voice to this. If you email news@autisticradio.com, and we'll set you up with a link so that you can be one of the presenters.